This happened 1 month ago, but I've only managed to be fine now. My husband didn't have a good relationship with the family because he married a man. He came from a wealthy family and the house we lived in was a gift from his parents before he came out. We dated for 3 years until he discovered he was terminally ill, so we married because it was our dream. It was something very rushed yet beautiful, and we even tried to invite his parents. The answer was no. He knew the nature of his parents and asked me to make it a specific type of civil marriage so I would be entitled to everything he had before and after the wedding. If it was the other way, the parents would be entitled to things in his name acquired before marriage. This is protected by law. The party was wonderful with our closest friends. My sweet husband survived for 9 months and finally had his well-deserved rest. I was numb despite having prepared for months for this moment. I couldn't even stay at the house, so my mother took me to sleep at her house for a few days. I got a notification from the home security system 6 days after his passing, and when I went to see the cameras, my husband's entire family was there with a big truck ready to move our stuff. His sister, he trusted, had a spare key because she took care of our animals while we were traveling, and they used it. So I went there and I admit that I blew up, cursed even the 10th generation of the family, and even more so my sister-in-law. They started to say that they were entitled to everything because the house and furniture were all acquired before the marriage, and that I shouldn't act surprised if, by law, they can take it all and until the court, they would keep it, so I don't sell anything. I cursed even more and said they had no right because my husband knew how they were very well and assured me that everything went to me. I talked about the civil marriage type. They were surprised and started to say that this was incorrect because at least the house was theirs, as it was given as a gift, but they left after I said I would call the police if they didn't leave and kept harassing me about the matter. I had to swap numbers because I had several numbers saying that I was an opportunistic gold digger and should be aware that this house truly didn't belong to me. I know I'm protected by law, but sometimes I wonder if I shouldn't have given up my house for peace. Am I the idiot? Edit, the house is in his name. Not the idiot, these people are despicable. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your husband protected you and expressed his wishes for his property. His family is not owed anything, including basic respect after how they behaved. You should take care of yourself now. Grief is a long journey. Forget them, they're not worth a second thought. I wonder if I shouldn't give up my house for peace. Peace with whom? The parents who couldn't be bothered to go to their own son's wedding, or the sister-in-law who unannounced shows up at your house that your husband legally left to you 6 days after he passed away with others to loot your place? Jesus, there will never be peace here. So I see no reason for you to give up your house. Do get a good attorney though. Agree, don't you dare give anything to those leeches. The only thing that would come of it is you would hurt yourself. You should have immediately called the cops for theft and trespassing if you know the law is on your side. Never let them hold on to something for safekeeping either. You probably don't have an itemized list of everything in the house, so how would you even know if nothing was stolen? Even if you are wrong and you're not, but if anyway, the family doesn't get to show up and start taking things. If there was a will, then it's the executor's job to dole out things according to the will after properly doing the legal paperwork. No matter what. No one legally is allowed to touch or take anything until the will is read. In fact, a complete account of everything is needed before anything goes to anybody. You should have called the police as soon as the alarm went off. They're acting this way because they're homophobic. Do not give these people even an ounce of your time. Block them and continue handling your grief. Your husband wanted you to have it and it's legally yours. That's all that matters. If they harass you, get restraining orders on them. Then, change the locks and file a police report. I, 35 male, have a daughter, tween, with my ex-wife Kerry, 36. Kerry and I met senior year of high school, dated throughout college, and had our daughter whenever she was in law school. Initially it was great, but after Kerry joined a firm, everything went to crap. I accepted that her job would require long hours, but it got worse. I was doing almost all the baby. She would just come home late, eat, watch TV and go to bed. Would show me no affection most nights. I felt like a live-in nanny and I was working full-time too. I tried communicating, only to get lawyer talk back. All we would talk about was her work and the baby. Nothing about us or my job or life. I filed for divorce 4 years ago. Kerry went off about it when I informed her. She wanted to try therapy, something I'd suggested for years. In my opinion, she was most upset about losing her childcare arrangement and personal chef. Kerry has become the woman empowerment type in the last few years. She wants our daughter to be independent and successful, which I'm fine with, obviously, but she's gone too far. She's got the short haircut and all the t-shirt slogans now. She's active on social media about causes. Good for her for finding a hobby, but I don't want that for my daughter. I don't bring that crap into my home. I raise my daughter to be whoever she wants. She can respect men and be independent. She can become a successful businesswoman or a wife and mother. She's just too young to be putting all this pressure on her. I've been dating Lainey, 28 female, for 2.5 years. She and my daughter are very close. Lainey is more of the conservative homebuilder type. Lainey has a couple of tattoos and wants to get one of me, my daughter and her on her arm sleeve. We're talking about marriage. She's free to do whatever she wants with her body. I asked my daughter if she's okay with it and she loved the idea. She and Lainey are working on the design together and it's bonding them more. I love it personally. My ex-wife found out and scolded me. She had an issue with how I'm raising my daughter and how my girlfriend is promoting tattoos. She also said I don't care about my daughter because I don't help her study, which I told her wasn't true. We do the homework quickly so we can hang out and usually enjoy life, not shove our faces in books. Her grades are still great, just not all A's. So yes, education is important, but so is family. I told Kerry she's free to raise our daughter however she wants to at her place, but our house is about being a family and not being a cold robot. So maybe she should look in the mirror and ask why our daughter likes her stepmom so much. I'm not going to turn our daughter cold, and Lainey can get whatever tattoo she wants. She called me an idiot and threatened to contact my attorney. I laughed and hung up. Am I the idiot? I feel like there's a lot of missing info from this post. However, just based on your description of your ex alone, it makes me feel like there's more to this story. Also, it's very off-putting that your girlfriend wants to put a picture of you and your daughter's faces on her body, and if I were your wife, I'd be concerned too. I also find it hilarious that the daughter is too young for women's empowerment but is somehow mature enough to consent to have her likeness permanently tattooed on someone's body. If she's too immature to be exposed to feminism in OP's mind, how is she mature enough to understand what she's consenting to? You are the idiot, especially if you talk about your daughter's mother like this where she can hear. You say you're raising her to be whoever she wants, but your descriptions here are extremely far from value neutral. Putting effort into schoolwork isn't living like a robot. It's important. You aren't doing your daughter any favours. Right? I mean, the short haircut and not bring that crap into the house. So condescending. If he patted himself on the back any harder, he'd break his arm. I hope he doesn't share the idiot attitude he has towards his ex with his daughter. Everyone's the idiot here. You and your ex-wife are a hot mess, and your kid will suffer. Get it together. The opinions you express about women and their roles are concerning, and even as a stranger, I'm worried about the long-term safety of your daughter. Your new partner is planning to get a tattoo of your face, makes me question her judgment and the health of your relationship. Be real. How comfortable would you be if your wife's new partner, who they aren't even engaged to, much less married, got a tattoo of your daughter's face on his shoulder? I have split custody of my 2 sons, Diego tween and Sasha young tween, with my ex Josie. About a year after we split up, Josie got pregnant with Eva from a one-night stand. That guy never stepped up. He's pretty broke, so he doesn't pay child support and would stop by every now and then when Eva was young, but hasn't been seen since she was a toddler. I'm pretty good friends with Josie and will invite her and all 3 kids over when I have cookouts and stuff like that. Through the years, I've watched Eva for Josie as a favour here and there. They go to the same school, so sometimes I'll pick up all 3 of them and drop them off at Josie's on her weeks when she's busy, but I have some time. I don't play a fatherly role though and don't really want to. The other day when I picked them up from school, Josie asked me if I wanted to stay for dinner. We had a nice meal and hung around for a while. When I went to leave, Diego and Sasha hugged me goodbye and said, "Bye, Dad." Eva also hugged me and called me that as well. I figured it was a mix-up and went, "What was that, Eva?" She goes, "Oh, sorry, meant to ask if I could call you that now." I told her I'd rather her call me my name. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want that responsibility on me. She seemed sad and I thought that was that, but since then, Josie told me I was being a real jerk, saying it's not like she's asking for child support from her, but I should still let her call me that and be flattered. I don't really like it though. and I'm afraid of future expectations if she gets used to it. Am I the idiot for that? Not the idiot, that's not your child. You're doing enough to include her with your kids periodically. Letting her call you dad sets her up for heartache down the road. It was good to set that boundary now. Josie also needs to talk to her and get her some therapy to deal with an absent father. You are in no way responsible for filling that void. You are not her dad, period. You're a positive male role model in her life. That's a very good thing. Blurring the lines by letting her call you dad would create problems for everyone involved. In some states, just behaving like the father and playing the role makes you liable for child support. Instead of being mad at you, your ex needs to have a conversation with her daughter. So my stepmother has this tradition her family does regarding weddings where all the sisters wear the same piece from a family member's wedding outfit. Traditionally, it's something from your mother or grandmother's wedding. My stepmother and all her sisters wore their mother's veil. Stepmother's nieces by her older sister all wore their mother's wedding pearls. You get the picture. I'm engaged. My stepmother sat me, my stepsister and my half-sister down to discuss what our item would be. I told her I was planning to wear something of my mom's, which would be all the extras I would wear. She told me it was an important tradition to continue. I told her it was nice of her to think of me, but it wasn't my tradition. She then said the simple answer would be to let them wear the necklace when their wedding days come around. They thought that was a great idea and said that if it was a piece that they thought it was the most beautiful thing ever and they'd love to wear it. I said that wasn't going to happen and that it was a piece of my mom I could have during my wedding since I couldn't have her. My not wanting to do this tradition has caused some arguing. My step and half-sister were upset I wouldn't do it with them. My stepmother is upset that I don't want to embrace a tradition from her family. The tradition has no interest to me at all, and I would never share something of my mom's with my step or half-sister. My dad tried to talk me into it. He told me it would mean so much and that didn't I want to finally feel like they were my mom and sisters instead of having step and half in front of their titles. I told him no, that I have a mom and her being dead doesn't change that or mean I need to see someone else as my mom too. My stepmother told me that she's always tried to make me a genuine part of her family, a true daughter, and I'm an idiot for rejecting that as an adult when it doesn't just hurt her but my sisters as well. Am I the idiot for not wanting to do this? Not the idiot, definitely. They can keep their traditions. It's lovely that you want to have a connection with your mom. Have the wedding you want and can afford. Never let anyone sit you down to discuss anything. Allowing someone to sit you down is giving them authority and power over you that they do not have. You may agree to discuss something with them, but on equal terms. The necklace is from your birth mother. If I read this right, your stepmother wants you to share the necklace from your birth mother. I'm sorry, but the second wife and her child want to wear your dead mom's jewelry. I wouldn't let the others wear it. Your half-siblings didn't know her. The tradition sounds nice, but in this situation it should be something from the stepmother, meaning the stepmother should give something of hers to her kids. Firmly tell them all that you don't plan to participate in the tradition, and that's final. Ignore their complaints. Anytime they bring it up, say you've made your decision and change the subject. I bet they want it because it's the most beautiful piece ever. This has been Stepmom's endgame all along. My sister and her husband opened their restaurant together on Friday. They'd wanted to do it for years but started the steps to take the plunge during the first lockdown. This meant a lot to my sister, who always wanted to be a business owner. Months ago, she'd asked me to be there on opening night with my family. I'd promised her faithfully that I would. Our relationship has suffered a lot of late. I've always felt like I do more for her than she does for me, and it boiled over when 2 weeks ago, she'd asked to borrow some money promising she would pay it back. I had asked her when she'd pay it back. She told me sometime. I told her it took months to pay me back the last time and Christmas was coming up soon and that this year was tight. She told me she knew and she would pay me back in less than 2 weeks and that the money was super important for making sure everything went okay opening night because the deposit on something she'd hired had increased without her realizing and she didn't have the money available for it. I told her I wasn't sure if I trusted her to get me the money in 2 weeks. She couldn't believe I'd bring up past issues at that moment. She told me she was asking her big sister for help and hoped I would give it willingly. This made me angry and I asked her when she'd willingly help me with anything and when she had made a point to prioritize being there for me. She told me that I was more stable than she and nothing ever knocked me down. I pointed out I had a pregnancy loss and it had been devastating to me and that was when I needed support more than ever, but she'd been preoccupied with something else. Then she told me after she felt too awkward talking to me. Yet when she had her first child, she talked non-stop about her fears of losing her baby because I'd suffered it a couple of years before. We ended up not speaking, and then her restaurant opened and I didn't show up. She was upset and mad and frustrated with me, and her husband told me she'd waited and waited for me, had told other people I would be there, and then I didn't show. I feel bad, and at the same time I don't know if I want to bother anymore. She frustrates me so much, but I love her at the same time. I know I let her down by not being there, so I ask, am I the idiot? Edit, she got money from her in-laws to get the restaurant off the ground. Not the idiot. It honestly sounds like an exhausting relationship, and showing up to her restaurant opening would have just brought all of your recent arguments back out. I'd also wager that she would have asked you for money again, this time in person. I don't know why people would expect you to turn up when you've had a major disagreement that wasn't resolved, which I don't think can be resolved, unless your sister stops asking you for stuff and apologizes for how she handled your loss. So you probably just need to go low or no contact with her, because this doesn't sound like a good sibling relationship at all. At the very least, I think OP is justified in never giving the sister any more money. Super important money that can be repaid in less than 2 weeks sounds like a financial mess I do not want to touch. It doesn't sound like her business is likely to be successful if she can't manage her money better than this. This is a classic example of the youngest child dynamic. She has been helped, handed everything, and has no real perspective on what anyone else is going through. She just expects you to give her money and support her without regard to paying it back promptly or that you might need your money. If she's old enough to run a restaurant, she's old enough to start sorting out her own financial messes. I think it's time to see what kind of relationship is left between you once the one-sided financial support is taken off the table. I'm guessing not much.